In Virginia Beach and surrounding areas are here to stay. In July, we told you about First Landing State Park officials were warning visitors not to feed the coyotes. Well, now they're rolling out a lot more information on how to coexist with them. A 13 News Now reporter Stephen Graves is live in Virginia Beach. Now, Stephen, how are park officials educating people about this?
Well, Aaron, the officials here, they say it's all about seeing a need and responding. Now, folks, of course, have seen them around here. They've taken pictures, have questions. It's raised rumors. So, folks here say they're trying to bring the information, all the facts, straight to the people.
With a quick snap, Sarah Lindsley's camera turns into a coyote catcher.
It zoomed in pretty well. I think the closest I was maybe 30 feet.
The female coyote, now the infatuation of many people along Shore Drive.
And there she was, sitting on the beach.
And even walking in the middle of the street, too. It was after this that things really exploded on social media.
It's more precaution. It's not so much fear.
Some people were afraid. They thought maybe the coyotes had something to do with spikes in missing animal posts around the neighborhood. That hasn't been proven, but First Landing State Park officials want you to know what is factual. Just recently, they came out with a new educational tool, a presentation they can deliver to people in different neighborhoods. The information helps everyone get to know the animals and their origin. It includes their important role in the ecosystem, the fact that they're even great swimmers, and the reality that attacks on humans are very rare. You have a better chance of getting hit by a rogue golf ball than being bitten by a coyote.
You get a lot of people who run the running path into the park, and they're people who aren't as familiar necessarily, and so that's a big deal. I think everyone needs to be aware.
Park officials say most importantly, learn how to coexist. Lindsley says not feeding them could solve the sighting uptick.
You know, it's a wild animal. You want to be careful and you don't want to encourage it.
And so the park has already presented this presentation to one neighborhood group here. They're looking to present to more if need be around the area. If you're interested, we're working to post that information on 13newsnow.com. Reporting live in Virginia Beach, Stephen Graves, 13 News Now.